Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Geek Centurions, where we're basically doing the Snyder Cut, movie that neither the two of us thought would actually happen.
Yeah, the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, a movie that came out like 2017.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I made sure.
yeah. So it was definitely one of those things that a lot of people were sort of wanting after, how the Justice League movie came out being not very good at all.
No good.
Yeah. So I mean, it is one of the most surprising things about this whole situation. That Zack Snyder was able to come back. He was able to do his cut of Justice League, and I mean, yeah, it's here, and they premiered it on HBO Max, and we've got to watch it.
Mm-hmm. And it is 4 hours long.
Yeah, talk about a director's cut, I guess. But we're gonna be talking about it. We're gonna just sort of go through it, right?
Yeah.
Our thoughts.
Before that, I think we should talk about how we got here. Zack Snyder was the original helm for a lot of DC films. So Man of Steel all the way up to Joss Whedon's Justice League. That's how we're just gonna call it, the Joss Whedon Justice League. And he was in the middle of filming that one, but sadly, things occurred where his daughter Autumn had lost her life. She basically, there's no way to sugarcoat it. She took her own life, which is a tragedy in of itself. He wanted time alone. He wanted time to spend with his family. Focus on the, just be there for his family in this very dark time. And the company, Warner Brothers, the studio, brought in Joss Whedon, who we all know directed, Avengers 1 and 2, to finish up the film. And, once it came out, it was really not received well. And then, through talks and discussions, we found out what Zack Snyder originally wanted to do with the Justice League, what his vision was. And that got a lot of people to be like, we want to see his version because it's probably the best. You shouldn't, take away the vision of an artist, of a filmmaker. And we'll get to that kind of conversation later into this episode. But essentially, that was the whole deal. And fans petitioned like crazy to see the Snyder Cut. And I'm talking like, hey, let's get a billboard in Times Square to say restore the Snyder Cut and show it off during New York Comic Con. And I'm like, wow, you guys really went hard. And it's funny because like a lot of the stuff wasn't even, from my understanding at the time, wasn't even done, right?
I mean, yeah, because the thing about it, when you look into it, Zack only had essentially a lot of stuff was that was filmed was, a lot of the stuff that Zack was talking about was more concepts that weren't added in at the time, just because they had only barely they were maybe halfway through the film itself before he had to leave.
Yeah, and then Joss Whedon came in and did a lot of reshoots. The reshoots are very apparent in this film, though.
In the Zack Snyder cut, there is a lot of reshoots, but that's obviously because, again.
Well, I'm saying also, Joss, you can tell which one was Sweden's cut.
In the original, you can definitely tell which ones were.
But you can also tell which ones were reshoots in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
And you want to blow your nose out?
No, it's fine.
But yeah, let's get that one. But essentially, that's what everyone was climbing for. And when Joss Whedon had the time to basically talk about what his version was, what he wanted to do into the future, people were like, oh, this is what we want. This sounds amazing. Let him finish and that kind of stuff. And we also the support of the actors themselves. So sorry. Jason Momoa and Ray Fisher, Gal Gadot, all of them were supporting the idea of the Snyder Cut. Especially Ray Fisher, who felt like his character was underutilized. He blamed it a lot on, Jeff Johns, who is like one of the most well known comic book writers in DC in the company, and Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon's been getting a lot of shit recently. Not saying it's undeserving, but there is kind of a weird thing going on with the studio that I wish I could address, but I'm not as knowledgeable as I would like to be to address them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just have to put that out there. But once HBO released their HBO Max, they're like, okay, and this is why I really think the Snyder Cut was made. They're making a streaming service. They're gonna need people to come in and like go in and purchase it, download it, and all that kind of stuff. And when it first came out, what was one of the big things that they were marketing? Which was one in 1984. That movie came out. They did good for a while, but a lot of people didn't like 1984, and they were like, okay, we're just not gonna subscribe anymore. But Snyder Cut, when it comes out, we're all gonna jump on that, right? Yeah, we're all gonna jump on that. And so now we're here talking about the Snyder Cut. So we have to talk about our thoughts on the film. Once again, this movie. Well, it's funny because this movie was supposed to be like episodic, wasn't it?
I think that was like one of the rumors going around. Yeah, I think when it comes to it being episodic, I think I vaguely remember hearing the rumors that it was going to be like that for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like it was going to be it was going to be released all in one, but it would be like cut up into like 4 episodes or something like that. Mm-hmm. Which would have been interesting, and I think they just stuck with just having it all be like together, which I think is probably for the best because I don't know, it just feels weird to like take that film experience and then just cut it into and try to make it like some weird like mini series, especially because I feel like now seeing like the film in that cut, like it'd be kind of weird to like try to cut it into like those basic chunks because it doesn't feel like
there are chapters in this movie where like you can go in and clearly pause, like there are moments where like, hey, this is where we started off. There's a title called "Don't Count on Batman," and the next one is "The Age of Heroes," and they each take up 30 to an hour long. So if you ever want to do bathroom breaks watching this movie, there you go. That's when it tells you to stop.
Yeah, I get that. But I just don't like how some people just compare it to an intermission, because usually intermissions are more than like 2 seconds, because it's like the title and then we immediately just go into the next scene. It's like, okay.
It's like with the Hateful Eight. That one had an intermission. Mm-hmm. And so we've watched it, and while I wanted to do a quick episode on it, I felt like we had to take our time with it because it's so long, and there's a lot of stuff happening, and there's a lot of things to absorb before we can talk about it. And now we're here, and now we're gonna have to give our thoughts on the film. Joey, how about you start us off? Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yes, this is an interesting film, and I don't. And when I say interesting, I'm not, trying to be like, he's gonna say it's bad, because I don't think it's bad. This is, I will say this. This is substantially a more better film than the original Justice League that came out in 2017. Like, in terms of just consistency, and tone, it works far better. Mainly because it's all Zack essentially, and the sort of the Joss Whedon cut, I guess we can call it. It does feel a bit like a jumbled mess, because obviously it's just 2 directors with essentially their own sort of takes on these characters and this world having to like coexist, and that's definitely like one of the biggest like failings of that movie. And here we don't really have that. We have Zack.
It's full on Zack.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just a lot of stuff that he wanted to do. And granted, there is still like some areas. Like honestly, it's interesting because when you compare the two, at least because I feel like when we were watching it, I was always sort of just looking at like, okay, which parts were. I'm just like looking at all these stuff. And it's like, okay, so which parts were Zack stuff, which parts were Whedon stuff, and obviously, looking back, you can kind of tell which one was Whedon stuff, obviously because you can clearly tell when it's Joss Whedon. It was always like a lot of quips and maybe some character bonding moments, I guess. And maybe the occasional green screen, because obviously, they had the reshoot stuff. Here, it definitely seems like there's more of a consistent flow to some scenes.
Yeah.
Although, like you said earlier, there are moments that are definitely like reshoots, essentially.
Yeah,
because they probably never filmed them.
Yeah, because there's a scene. By the way, we're going full spoiler on this because everyone's at least seen it by now. It's trending on Twitter like fucking 3 days now. Like there's a scene with Wonder Woman where like she picks up the arrow that was fired, and like you can clearly tell, like I knew something was weird about it, and you're like, no, that's a green screen background. Oh, that's built. The rest of it's green screen.
Yeah, like this. I'm just like, this is clearly just they're on a studio with green screen everywhere because the background just looks hella fake, and it's like. Everything else around her is like obviously like probably built there, and to be fair, I think it makes a lot of sense because again, Zack didn't fully finish filming the film. He like was halfway through it, and obviously had to leave, and that's sort of the thing. I think when people were originally discussing a Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League, is that you can't possibly just make a Zack Snyder cut because. A lot of it wasn't filmed. There was definitely a lot of key scenes that he wasn't able to film. But here, there's a lot. They were able to do that, and I'm assuming a lot of it. I think you can also kind of tell sometimes if it's a reshoot scene because I'm assuming they were doing reshoots of this movie still during last year. When the whole pandemic hit, and there's oftentimes you can clearly tell there are characters that are like I guess supposed to be in the same room, but they have a bit of a distance between them. I'm assuming because of trying to make sure everybody stayed safe. But yeah, I mean, what else? Right, I think something to talk about is Steppenwolf, who of course in the original. Kind of looked like a bad PS3 boss villain.
Yeah, he did look pretty bad.
And it didn't really have much of a personality, just other than must find mother boxes and do all that stuff. And I definitely think that's like Steppenwolf is like probably like one of the most improved, at least in terms of his role in the story and plot and visual, because he does look a lot better now. Except for one area, and I'll discuss that soon. And he does have a bit more of a character. Granted, it's not like he's super deep and interesting. It's more like, yes.
A lot of people have been reading it as super deep and interesting, but I'm like,
not really.
If you know the character he's working with, there ain't no deep in there.
Yeah, like he all his main motivation here is just, I want to regain my honor essentially. To Darkseid, and get these mother boxes and shit. And of course, we do get to see some Darkseid, although he's sort of a background character and like only does some things. So don't expect him to be doing like some weird don't expect him to be doing some crazy stuff. I guess you could kind of see him much like a Thanos, if you will. Just sort of a background character that's sort of the real big boss. But the one thing about Steppenwolf that I did not like, and is
you've gone on it.
Yeah, it's his armor. And
a lot of people like it. People like the way it moves.
No, don't get me wrong. That is neat to look at, but I personally do not like it just because it looks so edgy. It looks like it's straight out of the 90s.
Yeah.
Like this is like a design you would see in like a 90s comic, which is like it's too many spikes. It just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
it just looks too weird. Like, and
it looks good in motion.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this, as to say, oh, the original was better. No, like the original Steppenwolf doesn't look good at all. Here, visually, at least in terms of like the detail and stuff, yeah, it looks good, but like the design wise of the armor is just why.
I made this joke and there's a bunch of scenes where a lot of like the Amazonians just tackle him, and I kept saying, no, they'd be dead. They'd be dead from that tackle.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I mean, yeah, they would get, hit.
There's no way they couldn't touch a spike. Everything is spiky. It's like you're trying to touch a porcupine.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess in theory, you could be like, well, maybe that's the reason why I wear it. No, he doesn't wear it like that. It obviously was a design choice by the art team, and it just it doesn't look great. Like, in all honesty, I would have preferred like a more comic accurate version of his costume, because if you look into the comics and how he looks nothing like that at all.
They made him more alien.
Yeah, which I get the understanding of that, but it just, I don't know. Also, I think another design about Steppenwolf that I don't like is the fact his weird fucking head.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
Like,
because everyone knows like it's weird. Like Spike goes like like a hammer or whatever.
Yeah,
that's like you said, that in the comics he's kind of looks more human. That's just the fucking helmet he has. He has like a normal head.
Yeah, it's like, why is this a thing? I don't know. It's
Zack Snyder's vision, man.
I know, but it's definitely like an artistic choice that I'm just like, why? Also, the another thing about this film that I guess is interesting, design choice, was the aspect ratio.
Yeah, there. I think I tried to look up at why he did it, but I couldn't find I found one, but I haven't finished reading up in the article. But it's in a way, he said it's in a way to respect classic cinema.
Okay, it is an interesting design choice. I won't don't get me wrong, because obviously there's tons of directors that like to film on certain
aspect
ratios, or like on actual. Because I know Quentin Tarantino, at least for I think the Hateful Eight, he like filmed it on like actual film, not digital film, like actually rolling the thing up and everything. Because he is sort of like he's a bit of a hipster, not hipster, but like
no, he's a hipster.
Yeah, when it comes to stuff like that. And obviously Christopher Nolan loves IMAX. He always fucking films in IMAX no matter what. So he'll fucking like.
There's a reason why he wanted people to go watch it in theaters.
Yeah, there's a reason why he wanted to watch it. You wanted Tenet in theaters because
Tenet.
It's like,
you said Tenet.
Tenet in theaters because he's like, IMAX is the way to experience this film. It must be experienced in the theater.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean it's an interesting thing to go with. I just don't think it like necessarily works in this film, just for the sheer fact that it feels like there's things outside of the screen that you want to see. Because there's a lot of moments where it seems like there's like vistas and stuff like that would be good to see on a widescreen or just like a regular format, and that's not the case here. I mean, I guess like the aspect ratio does sort of enhance like various close-up scenes, because it really sort of makes it feel as though you're like with the characters when there's close-ups. But I don't know. It's like it works sometimes, but I feel like for the most part, it probably would have been better if it was just regular.
I think the problem is that it's too close that whenever they try to do something large scale, like a huge, the attacks they have at the nuclear plant or whatever, you feel like you're missing something.
Yeah, it's like you want to see like all of the battle,
Mm-hmm.
but you're constrained into this regular
Mm-hmm.
aspect ratio. This is so yeah. It's a little odd, but I mean, when it does work for certain scenes, but it doesn't work for other scenes. So
Mm-hmm.
I admire it. I just feel like it probably would have been maybe better to just go with a regular aspect ratio.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I will say I think for me, this film is. I think I mentioned this before to you when we were discussing it after we finished watching it. It feels like Zack Snyder on a canvas.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I imagined Zack Snyder just painting, and this is just like all him on the canvas.
Like when you see Van Gogh, you know it's Van Gogh.
Yeah, and when you see this, it definitely feels like a Zack Snyder film in all, like with a lot of the positives and negatives that Zack Snyder films usually tend to have. All the good that he does do,
Mm-hmm.
and all and the various flaws that he has when it comes to
Listen,
his own
I
film
didn't
style.
need, and I'll talk about this in my take. I didn't need 3 different music videos.
Yeah, that is a thing because sometimes when we get introduced to certain characters, we get like a weird, we get like sort of like music playing in the background as they're doing things, and it's so like I think it tries to be deep, but it's not as deep as it thinks it is because the songs are essentially matching what the characters are thinking, and it's kind of cheesy.
You were straight up laughing at the whole the Aquaman scene where he's like walking down the water and it's like whatever song that was about a king.
Yeah, and a king, he's in his kingdom and stuff, and it's like, I get it. Aquaman's supposed to be the next king of Atlantis, and he has his kingdom there. And it's like, I don't know.
We get it.
It's like, we get it. All right, you don't need to play a fucking pop song to tell us what the characters are essentially thinking or doing, because it just, I don't know. It's like. Like I said earlier, it tries to seem like it's kind of deep or whatever, but it's not that, like, it's not very subtle.
No,
you're trying to pull off.
They still do a Jesus thing with Superman.
Yeah, like when he comes back and he has the black suit and stuff, he does do a bit of a, sort of Christ-like pose, if you will.
And I was like, God damn it, Zack, I thought we were done with this.
No, what are you talking about? Like, but yeah. There's honestly, if there's one thing I found that's very interesting that I thought was a Zack edition but wasn't was when Superman comes back, he fights some of the Justice League because he just sort of like doesn't know what he's doing, and when he goes to Batman, it's in the original he sort of grabs him by the neck. He's like, "Do you bleed?" As a callback to Batman v Superman. And, that's not in this film. So, to me, that it makes me believe that, like, oh, so that wasn't a Zack thing? That was a Joss Whedon thing? That's interesting.
Which I kind of missed, though. It was kind of funny.
And, yeah. Although, I'm assuming part of the reason is just because it was obviously, it was a reshoot, and, like, Superman's, like, Henry Cavill didn't shave his mustache. So, I'm guessing they didn't want to like show that again. But yeah, I think overall, the biggest thing about this film for me, it's probably the biggest like flaw, is the runtime.
Yeah, we said this before. It did not need to be 4 fucking hours.
Yeah, it is 4 hours long. This movie, and there are a lot of moments in this film where I sort of like kind of go like, we can cut this in a sense, like, or I could just be like, hey, we can like maybe like stop it here and then continue to the next scene, because yeah, it feels there are various moments that sort of just kind of go on just a bit of it too much. You know, it's sort of like okay, we get it. We don't need to stay on the scene for an extra minute. Are we're still here? Oh, okay, all right. And there are other scenes that sort of like, is this necessary to the plot? Maybe I don't know.
I think the biggest one for that, one of the best examples for that is the opening scene with Aquaman, where we have these Scandinavian girls. I think they're Scandinavian. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he's taking as soon as he takes his shirt off, they start singing like a Scandinavian. I don't know. They start singing something, and they just stay on them singing and singing and singing, and I'm like, can we just cut?
Yeah, it's funny to me because Batman leaves as they're singing, and it's like, okay, we're following Batman, so we're probably gonna cut to the next scene to something else happening. But no, we still stick on these women just singing, as Aquaman has left and stuff, and it's sort of like, what? Like I kind of get what Zack was going for.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like Aquaman to these people is, like a pretty, I guess, divine would be probably, or just like he's a super.
He's kind of a god.
Yeah, he's kind of a god.
And if that's not what he's intended, I would say that it's kind of confusing because that's how it felt for me.
Yeah, because it seems like they're doing this to like worship him in a sense.
Yeah.
Right. And it just kind of just goes on for a little bit too long.
And I told you this: if they wanted to do that, if Zack wanted to keep that song, he could have just because the next scene was like Martha can't, railing at the loss of her son. You could have just cut to that while they were still, what's it called? Diegetic sounds.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't be necessarily diegetic because it's not. Martha's not hearing the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would. It would be in a neat editing thing to have them sing and then slow fade into Martha with the song still playing, and as she's
yeah, now it becomes like a
Clark's
song of
grave.
worship, a song of of sadness.
Yeah, it would probably also be interesting too because I mean Zack has always sort of given Jesus iconography to Superman. So if his intent was to have Aquaman and these women singing sort of them worshiping him, then transitioning that song into Martha can't still over Superman's grave as sort of you can still keep that sort of I guess godly connection between I mean that's it's an interesting thought process, but it also at least allows a bit more trimming the fat, if you will.
There was a lot of fat that needed to be trimmed. There's a lot of things that did we really need that?
Yeah, and there's especially stuff towards the end, at the end of the film.
We'll get to that.
That's we really didn't need this. Why is this here? But yeah, that's sort of I think my biggest thing is just sort of it does feel like there's a lot of stuff that could be cut out, and I know probably some people are like, why would we cut this out? This is clearly, we want everything from Zack's vision or whatever. But it's there comes a point when less is more. Mm-hmm. And I think this movie needed some of that because I feel like, for me anyway, we were just spending just an absurd amount of time on various things, and it does seem like we could have cut some of that out. Granted,
yeah.
I don't know, I think for me, at least some of the Barry stuff could have been at least shortened down a little bit, because there are moments where it sort of indulges, just stays on stuff, when he's saving Iris and he's just sort of staring at her face. It's sort of
kind of creepy.
Well, yeah, it's kind of creepy because I think. Does he touch her? No.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just remember, he's on the head.
Yeah, okay. It's a little freaking weird. I feel like you could have just had him just see her face, and then just cut to him grabbing the hot dog and stuff, and then saving her. Because there are moments just like that where it's sort of like,
that's a cool scene.
Yeah, like it's a cool scene, but like there's moments where it just sort of like we stay on something for a bit too long. That we could transition. We could just cut some of just trim the fat a little bit, and the scene will still be good, but just we'll have a bit more of a snappier space or whatever.
I think what you're saying is 100% correct, because one, you understand editing. You understand the importance of editing. You understand why certain things need to be done the way they are. It's kind of like the reason why you really hated, the Suicide Squad, because the editing for that one was complete utter shit, and why you are still baffled at the whole scene where in Bohemian Rhapsody where it took like 5 different cuts just to see someone sit down, which is like why do we need that? You just needed one cut and that's it.
Yeah,
you're wasting film.
Editing is a bit of a process. Like, obviously, you can have some wacky editing stuff to portray various tones and stuff, but when it comes to like wanting to, I sort of like admire editing when it's like, when it's finely tuned, and we only get crazy edits when there's meant to be sort of a crazy scene. Like if it's like a freaking like looking at some I guess an example, freaking Saving Private Ryan, the opening D-Day scene. There's a lot of chaos and like fast edits and that stuff, and it's meant to evoke the sense of like being on the shores of Normandy, seeing your buddies getting blown up and stuff. The crazy stuff that happens in war. So all that frantic editing and camera movement, it sort of meant to evoke that. But applying that to the Zack Snyder cut, like we just stay on a lot of things for like almost to like an unnecessary degree. And I feel like when it comes to something like that, like you don't need, like if you can still show what the scene is about without having some of those moments, then you can cut it. And that's how I sort of see editing, where it's like if you don't need it, then just cut it. It's like it's not necessary. And I guess you could argue that it's meant to be more of a direct, it's meant to be sort of a, be on a streaming service. It probably won't get like a DVD or Blu-ray release or whatever.
I doubt that's not gonna happen.
I mean, it might happen, but I feel like it would undermine probably the business model that
HBO's gonna go for.
Well, yeah, Warner Brothers is wanting to go for with the Zack Snyder cut. In that, we want you to get our HBO Max service, so to watch the Zack Snyder cut. We aren't putting it on Blu-ray. Why would we do that? That means that you're gonna just buy the Blu-ray and unsubscribe to HBO Max. Although I guess to be fair, Netflix has, I think, have they put?
They put. I remember seeing the Daredevil's DVDs out there.
Yeah, and I was gonna say Stranger Things probably.
Yeah.
So it probably does happen, but like probably to the point where it's no longer a selling point for a show.
That's if you're a real fan.
Yeah, I guess if you're a real fan who just like wants to just like it on like I guess if you didn't have internet for a while, then yeah, you could just watch.
You can't afford it.
Yeah, well, yeah. But yeah, no, that's sort of like I think the thing with the Zack Snyder cut is just that I feel like less is more, and that a lot of these scenes could have just been trimmed a little bit, not fully like cut out, because I feel like for the most part, there's only certain things in this film that I'm like that doesn't need to be in the film.
Why'd you put that in there?
Yeah, like why'd you put that in there?
Why?
Yeah. So, yeah. Overall, I think the Zack Snyder cut is a I feel like it's a superior version to the original.
And that's what we people want.
And yeah, in the end, that's kind of what a lot of people wanted. And, and it's kind of the thing that I kind of expected when we were discussing, at least sort of like in previous episodes, of like our initial like feelings before going into this and stuff. Like sort of like I hope it's at least better than the original, but at the same time, I think we also discussed like we kind of discussed about like I feel like this might be sort of what I kind of expect Zack Snyder to have done with the Justice League movie, and I do sort of still have that stance of like, okay, so this feels exactly what I thought Zack Snyder would have done with the Justice League movie.
I guess it's my turn. You basically took a lot of the filmmaking aspects of it.
Well, yeah,
and I 100% agree with that. I think for me, and you're also right on the story. The story's a lot better. This is a lot better film. There's clearly moments where you can tell there's a reshoot of stuff because they need to finish a lot of Zack Snyder stuff. I'll say this: I feel like some characters benefit more from this version than the last one. I feel Cyborg and Flash definitely, although I feel Cyborg does better than what he usually does in most of this. They give him a lot more characters, a lot more stuff going around. They go into his backstory. I don't know about you, but as much as I like Ray Fisher as Cyborg, there are moments where I feel like he was a little too whiny, and I get his point. I get the reason why he is, but there's a moment where he does something really good, and I'm like, I'm really happy for you. Personally, I feel like there would be a little more. There could be like some consequence to that, but you told me like no, just it's like Bitcoin. She's fine. I know, but and he does good, and I'm happy for him. But I always find it, but that scene always caught me off guard because he's doing it out in like out where everyone can see him in his robot head, and he's like not even hiding, which is weird because like throughout the whole movie he's hiding from himself, but he doesn't hide him. That's that one time he doesn't hide from himself, and it's just really jarring, especially in the next scene where he's like, "Don't follow me, don't look for me, fuck the world," even though he just helped someone out.
Yeah, it is a little odd, in a way. Yeah,
which is why I'm saying like it sounds a little more whiny because like if you cut that part out where he's like, "Fuck the world," I'd have been like, "No, I get him," but don't fuck the world. I was like, "Oh, okay, come on now." You just helped a poor woman who was about to get evicted from her house. How do you go from that to saying fuck the world?
I don't know. I guess you could argue that he's like the world's so messed up that like.
Then show us that, Zach.
Well, I mean, yeah. I like I don't know. Like maybe Cyborg just like the world's like just so messed up that. Yeah, it does feel weird because like if Cyborg is
Cyborg is meant to be the heart of the film, and I get it. I mean, but there's moments where I'm like, I don't know, I'm not really jiving with this kid. I'm not really connecting with him.
Yeah, like I think, I guess when it came to Cyborg, it's more of like, I kind of don't really get the idea of him being the heart of the film because I guess from my perspective, when it comes to like a character being the heart of the film. They're essentially the character that like I guess in this sort of aspect of a team up movie, like they would be the character that would bring the team together. Like not to bring in the comparisons, but in the Avengers, the first one, it could be said that Agent Coulson was the heart of the film. He was the guy who essentially he's kind of like the audience. Yeah. He's a fanboy of these.
My man gave Cap like the most cheesy looking costume because he was like, "Yeah, but it's Captain America. You gotta have the red, white, and the blue. It looks right." But everyone's like, "No, Coulson, no."
Well, yeah, I mean, he has the Captain America trading cards. He wants them to sign them, and he's essentially like he's the most sort of like like supporter of like the Avengers initiative, And when he dies, you know, that's sort of the moment where like essentially all the Avengers sort of rally together, right? It's the moment that like allows them to become a team. And we don't really have that in anything. If anything, Superman is more of the heart of the movie because he's the one that like sort of actually brings the team together. Batman is trying to recruit everybody for the Justice League because he made a promise to Superman to do so. And you know, when they're all together and they, you know, the mother box thing of like, hey, we need Superman, we gotta bring him back, right?
And don't get me wrong, there's moments of like where they talk to each other like a team, but I don't know. For me, it felt like it was really jarring because like there was no like, aside from like common threat, there was no reason for there was no reason for them to like stay together, to stay as a team. Like, okay, that's done. We'll wait for Darkseid. We'll wait for him when he comes out. We'll keep getting more people just in case. But you never see them like, you know, you can never see them really go full team.
Yeah, I get what you mean by that. There isn't sort of like the whole like, okay, from this day forth, we are the Justice League or whatever.
And I'm not saying that Joss Whedon did it better. He didn't, because like it's still the same thing in that situation.
Yeah, it's still it ends the same way in the original.
Yeah, so like it's a slight little more improvement in the Zack side, but you know it's not there yet. And so like that was always something for me. Flash, he's a lot better in this. He gets to show off his more impressive Speed Force powers, and especially towards the end when we're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Oh, well, not time travel, but you know, Superman, you know, reverse time. It's been not really, but you know, that's basically what happens. And it's essentially, you know, that's a really cool scene. I really like him. You know, they don't latch onto him too long. You know, he gets to be normal, because I think the one problem with Sweden is that, and Joss Whedon, is that he let, you know, he tried to make him too funny, and it didn't really work. That being said, I'm really upset they took out one of my favorite scenes from the Joss Whedon cut, which when Superman and freaking Flash do a race, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's cheesy," but like, no, I love that scene though, because that's the whole point of that. It's supposed to be cheesy. Superman and Flash racing, that's like a classic comic book thing.
Yeah, like it felt like it feels like a nice little like you know like a nod and like character building moment of like, okay, yeah, you can see these people being friends and stuff, and you don't really get that moment here. But I mean, at least they keep the moment where like Flash is running towards Superman and like Superman sees him.
I will say I did kind of miss the music in that one.
Yeah, there wasn't like, you know, the music was different or whatever.
Yeah,
there wasn't as much music in that scene.
Speaking of music, Zack, I understand that you want to give. I understand Zack Snyder wants to like give these people their moments and show off how they feel, but making it all slow mo with music is just not. No, it takes too much time. It's like you said, they needed to cut a lot of meat, and I feel like just speeding those portions up wouldn't have hurt anybody. You just had to like, it's like you say, it's a staple of his, and he's gonna do what he's gonna do. But I feel like it was not needed. It just wasn't. And like, you know, I don't know why, but you kept making fun of me. You kept making fun of me for it. But the Wonder Woman music, I like her theme. They had a cool rendition in this one, but it was overplayed too damn much, in my opinion.
Yeah, because it was like a sort of like this whole like hi or something like that.
Yeah, like ancient warrior woman chant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool. But don't play it every time she does something. Like, there's a moment where she discovers like the whole paintings of Darkseid and the mother boxes, and you hear like, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, just stop, please. Just do it when she's fighting. That's cool. And when she's fighting, I'm really cool. That's cool. Except for that last time when she had to cut off Steppenwolf's head and do that stuff. Speaking of Steppenwolf, yeah, I'm with you. I don't like the outfit still. Like, it's still a better one, but I don't like it because, like I said, it looks like just dogpiling him would just automatically mean to death. And you're like, oh, but that's, wouldn't you want that? Yeah, but yeah, but that's still stupid.
Yeah, I think, I guess the common consensus is that he looks more like a Doom, like something out of Doom rather than just like
well,
like
when he doesn't have the armor on.
Yeah, when he doesn't have the armor on, yeah, he does look like a Doom demon or whatever.
Yeah, because that scene where he gets where he has his glowing eyes and it's just his head. It's like, oh, hey, there you go. Look, he looks like a Doom character monster. Yeah, but he's a slightly better character. I don't want to say he's a way better character than everyone else is giving it credit for. No, he's still a pretty flat character. We just have a better motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't always mean best thing. Darkseid, I feel I'm a little disappointed with Darkseid. Mostly because when I read comics with Darkseid is like this presence. He is literally a being of the kind of like a being of the multiverse. There's only one Darkseid in the entire multiverse, and I don't mean like each Darkseid, each universe has a Darkseid. No, there is one Darkseid, and he can traverse through the multiverse, and he's fucking everybody up. And the cool thing about it is that he never really gets into the fight. He always uses his Omega beams. That's why they're so much of a staple. Because whenever he actually gets into a hand-to-hand fight with someone, that's when it means business. And I don't know, that whole intro sequence of him trying to take over the planet was it's cool. I get it, but it's just man, I don't know. I always like Darkseid when he has he's just standing there with his hands tied behind his back. That's how holding his hands on his back. They're you are beneath me, and all that stuff. I don't know. That's just me personally when it comes to my Darkseid. But he's okay. I'm gonna say this to everyone right now. Don't expect a Thanos level interpretation of him because Darkseid is the quintessential must conquer the world. I am looking for the anti-life equation because I need the anti-life equation to take over the world because it's the ultimate mind control ability. And yeah, and I'm surprised no one has asked what's the anti-life equation because they bring it up and I'm like, oh, we're doing anti-life equation. That's cool. We're not explaining it for the people who don't know what the fuck the anti-life equation is. All right, makes sense because I feel like this is mostly for DC fans.
Yeah, I guess. And I will say this about Darkseid, at least trying to conquer Earth at the beginning, or the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like it more that it's Darkseid and not Steppenwolf. Because in the original, it's Steppenwolf. Obviously. But here, it's Darkseid. Also, it's kind of it's a little interesting because I feel like, and I think I've seen people talk about this, that it's the Darkseid we see is not fully powered Darkseid, or else we would have actually seen him using Omega beams and stuff. But I'd
rather have full power Darkseid.
Yeah, but
did you need to lay this?
No, it's fine. It's just a I think Darkseid is more or less just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of set dressing.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you see Granny Goodness, who a lot of my friends were they're adding Granny Goodness. Holy shit, dude! She's just a CGI. Look, no, she's not really there.
Yeah, she's just a CG character who doesn't even have a line. It's just that she's there to be there.
Do you want to talk about Martian Manhunter?
We can go into it a little bit because I think it's just I don't get why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this is what I mean by trimming the fat. Because there's a lot of things that do we really need to know that Martian Manhunter was here? I know that was your plan, but do we really need him to be here?
Well, because I think my problem with him is that there's a scene where, because I think you said it before.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mentioned it. Where he's talking to Lois Lane.
Yeah,
as Martha Kent.
Yeah, as Martha. To allow her, to try to convince her to keep going.
Yeah,
keep doing what you're doing, or whatever. Don't
don't give up,
or whatever. And it's you would think it's oh, this is a nice little heart to heart between her and Ma Kent, but no, it turns out it was Martian Manhunter giving the pep talk, because Martian Manhunter is actually the general from the first Man of Steel movie.
Yeah.
Who's been just Martian Manhunter the entire time, and is like, we need you, Lois.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what? Like, you told me before that was the original plan, that he was supposed to be Martian Manhunter. It's like, that's dumb, and now seeing it on film, it's still dumb. And honestly, yeah, like, you could have just, for me, it would have been just so much better if it was just Ma Kent telling her that.
Yeah, because I was thinking is like, the effect is still there, but the weight of it is no longer there.
It's more of like a, see, it's Martian. He was Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, because you go out, you leave that scene being like, oh my god, it's Martian Manhunter, and from a story perspective, yeah, it's cool, but that kind of undermines the whole like Ma Kent and, you know, Lois Lane scene. Like, this is a moment with two women, two of the most important women in Clark Kent's life, having a heart to heart, having a moment of, like, you know, of real levity, of real, you know, human stuff, you know, and then it's like, oh, it's Martian Manhunter. He's just telling her what she wanted to hear, because he would probably do that because he can read minds. And it's just like, and you don't, and it really takes it away from that great, because that was a great scene, and it takes away from it, because you don't leave saying, man, that was such a great scene with Lois and Ma. You're like, holy shit, it's Martian Manhunter. What? That's crazy. And I'm just like, you just ruined it.
For me, it's more, I think it's more of like, imagine someone who doesn't know who Martian Manhunter is.
Okay, yeah, no, I see what you're doing.
And they get to this scene, it's like, oh, that's nice, and it's sort of like, Ma Kent walks out the door, her eyes turn red, it's like, what the fuck? Is this one of those parademon things? Is Lois in danger? It's like, no, it's a fucking green man in like a blue-red suit, and he's like...
And a cape.
And he's like, the world needs you, Lois. You know, he then turns into the general, like, who the fuck was that?
Okay, so it's funny you should say that, because earlier I was listening to someone's thought on the film, because I like to sometimes hear, you know, if I'm not the only one thinking of the same thing. This person who hasn't read a lot of comics was like, wait, you mean to tell me Ma Kent was always Martian Manhunter? And I'm like, no. She was never Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, that sounds about an accurate thing. It's like, what do you mean she was always Martian Manhunter? Does that mean... No.
And she doesn't know who Martian Manhunter is.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, so your earlier statement about, like, this being probably made for DC fans might be true.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing for DC fans, that's, like, a good for them.
That's good for them, but not good for people who never read a comic book.
Yeah, and it's and don't try to be like, well, if they haven't read a fucking DC comic book, then why are they even watching it? It's like, no, dude. Like, clearly...
Don't gatekeep here.
Yeah, no gatekeeping here. Clearly, this movie wasn't, like, you know, like, advertised for DC fans alone, or else they would have put it on DC Universe or whatever.
Well, that's no longer a thing.
Well, if it was a thing still, they would have done that.
Yeah.
But no, it's on HBO Max, and it's a high selling point for people who wanted to see it, like, a new version of Justice League, which is probably a lot of people. And, like, you could maybe argue that, like, yeah, but people know about, like, probably people might know Martian Manhunter is, like, yeah, but Martian Manhunter he's always been, like, a lesser, like, a very not as popular character as the other members of the Justice League.
Yeah. Also,
I guess we can transition into talking about the last scene he's in, which is sort of like, I think, the ending of the film where...
Okay. Before we go for any of that, I'll say this about a lot of the other characters. They're all done well. I feel like Diana, Wonder Woman, is not as good here as she is in her own movies. I feel like she's a little held back. I don't know if it's because she's with other people or, like, the direction she was given. There were often times where I'm like, I feel like she needed to redo that line again. Like I was talking to you about this. I don't think Gal Gadot, I don't know if it's her accent or just the way she performed that scene. When she's giving us the story of, like, the world of men coming together and stuff, I think that was like, she's not a good voice actor.
Yeah, you wouldn't see Gal Gadot narrating a nature documentary. I'll tell you that much.
No, it takes the life out of it.
Yeah, it kind of felt like she was just reading stuff that and saying things that she didn't like necessarily like. Just like
Mm-hmm.
it was more like she was kind of like just reading it, just like off the paper,
Mm-hmm.
like not like doing much to like I guess
Yeah.
elevate or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the people who are like record because this definitely feels if I feel like what might have happened is that this was probably during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and they just had her. They're just like, listen, gal, I need you to get into your closet and just read these lines
Mm-hmm.
because we can't get you into the studio or a sound booth or whatever. And that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of, I guess I kind of like I kind of agree that Wonder Woman doesn't like. I think the only thing she does get is sort of like Steppenwolf sort of like egging her on. Is like you abandoned your Amazonian family, and you weren't even there to protect them. And I think he tries to like goad her into like thinking that he killed
Mm-hmm.
Hippolyta, but he didn't. Obviously, he's
No.
just doing it just to fuck with her.
No.
But yeah, I mean that's like probably the only like interesting thing they do with it,
Yeah.
Diana. But besides that,
I mean, she's still pretty cool.
yeah, I mean obviously she still
Really,
does
like,
cool stuff.
Batman's a lot better. He's more useful. Flash is a lot more useful.
Batman's a lot better because we see a happier Ben Affleck.
Yeah, that's true. He does seem like he seems more put together. Probably because it's before all that crazy shit that happened to him.
Yeah,
You know, like I said, Flash is a lot better. Cyborg is a lot better. Aquaman, I feel like it's a weird state because we had the Aquaman movie come out, and like you can clearly tell there's a lot of redone from that version. Like,
there's a lot of elements of Aquaman in this film that don't carry over.
no, Amber Heard's British accent is left there and will always be there.
Oh, so she only had it in this film.
Yes.
Okay. And obviously Willem Dafoe's character has this like fucking long ass hair, but obviously in Aquaman it's more shortened.
Yeah, because the long hair makes him look like he's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like he's the crazy mentor, like you told me.
Yeah, when like he looks like a crazy mentor here, but in the Aquaman movie he's a bit more refined and wise and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Also, a lot of color was added more, and also I didn't about this, and the fact that we didn't notice it when we were watching it. Amber Heard talks about her parents dying, but in the movie, her dad's alive.
Oh yeah, she mentions that like Aquaman's mom raised her as one of her own.
Yeah,
but in the movie, her dad
in
is
the Aquaman movie, her dad's alive,
and it's
Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren. It's Khal Drogo. But yeah, you know, yeah, it definitely, yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah,
knowing that because I guess it is evocative of like
the changes that the studio has made.
That the studio has made in terms of like going forward with these movies, and I guess we'll talk a little bit more about like how I feel
about the studio being involved.
Kind of, but more so of what the future might hold. But yeah,
and you know, just to I guess I'm trying to think of what else to say. Yeah, basically it's all my thoughts on it. It's there's a lot of problems that I have with this movie. I don't think it's as perfect as everyone else was saying, but you know, it's still there. It's still a good movie, but I don't think it's as crazy good as everyone else says. Do you want to talk about the nightmare scenes? Oh, but also, this movie doesn't need to be like fucking Return of the King with all those goddamn endings.
It's like there's like 4 kind of endings,
and they take too damn long.
Yeah, it is a bit odd. Obviously, we have sort of, I guess, the initial ending where it's Superman, where it's all the sort of team members sort of like doing their own things and stuff. Superman, you know, pulling out the
everyone's like, we're gonna be heroes now, and the only difference is that, you know, Cyborg's dad dies in the film. He's self-sacrificed, even though I feel like kind of didn't need to sacrifice yourself.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the things I think I liked.
In the Jaws version,
yeah, is that his dad's still alive, and also like, you know, in Cyborg's epilogue in that movie, like he gets his OG look. Here he still has you know, he still looks. He doesn't change his look,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like the only thing that I'm like, come on, it would be kind of cool if he at least still got his OG looks, but you know, it's whatever, it's fine.
Then we get a slightly better version of the Lex Luthor scene.
Yeah, because in the original, this was a scene, kind of an after credit scene, where Lex Luthor escapes from Arkham Asylum, meets up with Deathstroke, and in the original, he's like, "Listen, I'm putting
a team together."
Yeah, he's like, "We'll build a league of our own," right?
And you're like, "No."
Yeah. It's like it's meant to be a reference to the Legion of Doom, right? And it's like, okay, I guess, but in this film, it's more of like, you know, I want to get back at Batman or whatever.
Oh, Deathstroke. Yeah,
like Deathstroke's more or less here. Like, I heard you have information on Batman. I want to, you know, get at.
And he basically tells him like, it's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that. Oh yeah, by the way, Bruce Wayne is who you're looking for, and he's like, all right then.
All right, let's celebrate.
Yeah,
and a lot of people say like, oh, this is a better Lex Luthor than in the last MBVS. Ah man, I don't know.
I don't get that because it's exactly the same fucking acting as Batman v Superman. I don't understand why you even think it's a better version.
People have said it's a better version.
Well,
mostly because of certain lines, like he's like good boy, like he's talking down to him, and I'm like, but he still sounds like he's scared as shit of him.
It's still Mark Zuckerberg being a weird supervillain.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to be a mix of. He's trying to be like intimidating, like the one in the animated series, like the Superman animated series, but he's trying to be like Gene Hackman in the classic Superman movies.
I still think it seems more like he's still acting like Mark Zuckerberg from The Social Network.
No, but that one at least was more intimidating because he will talk down to you.
Okay, but in any case, that's sort of how that scene goes, and then we get the nightmare scene, which, to be perfectly honest, when we saw like the trailers talking about this, showing off this scene, I legit thought that this movie, the only reason it was 4 fucking hours was that the nightmare scenario does happen halfway through the scene, halfway through the movie, and it's about, and we connected back to Barry going back in time, telling Bruce that Lois is the key, and Bruce remembering, now knowing that, has Lois Lane there to help, you know, bring Superman, you know, rein him in or whatever. But no, it's once again a nightmare dream where it's just Batman and a bunch of other characters.
It was Mira, Cyborg, Flash, Deathstroke, and Joker.
Yeah, and essentially sort of like going on about like how they need to do this plan to, you know, save, you know, do the whole time travel thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's sort of just a long sort of I guess conversation between Joker and Batman. Joker being sort of like, you know, like, you're the reason why all this shit happens.
You lost your father, you lost your mother, you lost an adopted son, and da-da-da-da, and Batman's like, shut the fuck up, Joker, I will kill you.
Yeah.
I made a promise to Harley Quinn, if I were to kill you, I would do it nice and slow.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, can I just move on?
I am sorely disappointed because they obviously use this as part of the marketing. And
it's not in the movie.
It's you're talking about the "we live in a society" line?
Yeah, the thing that blew up the internet is not in the movie.
Obviously, because it's just a marketing tool at this point for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think some people were saying that Jared Leto did a decent Joker here, but he's still like, listen.
No.
I feel like people say that, but in their heart of hearts, they know that, like, it would have been so cool if it was Joaquin, though. If it was Joaquin Phoenix in here, though, oh my god, that would have been hype. But it's like, okay, Jared Leto, you're doing your best. You know, it's like, okay, Jared, all right, pat you on the back. You did a decent job. All right, you know, here's a participation trophy. You know,
It's weird because we were talking about this while we were watching the movies. Like, he's trying to do like every other Joker,
Like he's I feel like Jared Leto knew that this scene was the only thing he was getting, so he just like tried his fucking like hardest to like be like, see, I can be a good Joker, guys, and it's like, I mean, it was all right. I mean, you're not Mark Hamill or anything, but it was okay. He's like, what? I'm just reminded of the South Park episode, with Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah,
it's like, I mean, you're all right, but you're not like Leonardo DiCaprio or anything.
I mean, that's how I feel too. But
yeah.
Oh, but you hated the way those scenes were cut.
Well, it's not less cut, but more shot because there's like moments where like they intentionally like out of focus Joker and stuff, and like and various other like weird like camera angles and stuff, and it's like, okay, I get it. The Joker is insane, and you're trying to convey that through visual language, in that he's just a crazy person. So you'll do these weird like off-putting things to show that he's a crazy person. But is it necessary though? Do we really need that?
Do we really need this long ass conversation between the two when they're trying to get to a certain place and everyone else is just watching him being stupid?
Especially because it's like, listen, we can't be out here too long, or else Superman's gonna find us and kill us all.
God damn it, Joker!
It's like, and then like when the conversation fucking ends, it's like he knows we're here now, and it's like, well, yeah, that's what happens when we let the Joker just monologue for a while.
Mm-hmm. Even Deathstroke was like, "Are you sure we should have brought him?" Like, what do you think? Oh no, we know what you think. Then why did you bring him here?
Yeah, it's just all kinds of, and obviously the worst part of it is, of course, that it's
another fucking dream.
It's a dream. It's a nightmare thing. Batman fucking wakes up and has that nightmare,
and then he goes outside to talk to Martian Manhunter. And Martian Manhunter's like, I'm going to join your team now.
Yeah, and he's like, I've been in the shadows for too long, watching from the distance, but now I feel like it's necessary that I join you guys. And he's like, oh. And Batman's just sort of just like,
okay,
this is a little awkward, but yeah, sure, I guess we'll
and I'm just like, God damn it, John, were you just that useless?
Yeah, because that's the thing about it, right? It's like, you mean to tell me, like, the whole Martian Manhunter thing, it's like, you mean to tell me he's been here just sort of like hanging out for so long that he could have intervened in any sort of way during the events of Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. Any of those times he could have just showed up. But he didn't because he just didn't feel like it?
That makes him an asshole.
Yeah. Like, that's my biggest problem with the whole Martian Manhunter reveal, is that it implies that Martian Manhunter has been here, just hanging out on Earth for no reason other than just to hang out. And they don't even give a good explanation or anything either. Like, they could have maybe have said, like, I wanted to keep myself hidden because I didn't know, if it was safe for me to do these things, right? But at the same time, that's also just a shitty, like, excuse anyway, because he's Martian Manhunter. He can just change into whoever he fucking feels like. So, like, if it was, like, a problem of him being like, oh, I'm a general in the army, I can't just be going around doing this stuff. It's like, yeah, but, like, couldn't you just, like, you can just, one's gonna know.
You can just go into the men's restroom, change it to the fucking janitor, come out, walk out, and then fly out.
Yeah, you can just transform yourself into a janitor. Yeah, you can just transform, not even, like, change outfits, just change into that dude. Because
that's his power.
Yeah, like, I don't know, it's just, that's my only, like, that's the biggest problem with the Martian Manhunter reveal. Like, it just doesn't, like, make
any sense. It means nothing.
Yeah. It's just there to be like, oh my god, it's Martian Manhunter. And that's about it.
And it was even worse. There was another nightmare scene early in the film when they're trying to bring back Superman. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Everyone's like, oh, that's cool. This is what Zack wants to do. And I'm like, but wait, we never addressed that again.
Yeah, because it's Cyborg seeing it.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like, no, we can't do that. And then, Flash does it anyway. But I think it's more like, I don't think this is necessarily like this is what we're going to see from Zack or whatever. This is how the nightmare is going to be or whatever. It's more like, this is a potential future kind of thing. But I always felt like the nightmare scenes in general were more like, they weren't going to make those into their own movie. It was more like, this is these are the stakes. This is the bad end, and essentially these characters are doing their best to prevent that end.
You didn't get enough, points to woo that character. You get the bad end. He kills you. That's a reference to all games that you probably never played. But anyways, it really bothered me, like, because like they keep nodding out the fact of like the nightmare sequences, but they don't do anything. Like Batman talks about seeing Barry time travel or whatever, but that leads to nothing. And then like, Cyborg has a vision, but he never brings it up.
Yeah.
It still goes on, and I'm like, but why? You saw something. You clearly need to address it. Something happened, but I guess it doesn't matter. But anyways, yeah. So let's talk about the differences in the film. That we probably won't be on that for long.
Yeah, because I feel like for the most part we've kind of already been bringing them up just naturally, but yeah, like obviously I think probably the bigger difference is that the original had a lot more comedic bits and stuff.
And not to say some of those were bad, because like there's still some aspects about it in the Joss Whedon cut that made sense. Like Lois Lane showing up to Superman was out of convenience, while it is implied in the Sweden cut that Batman always had her in the background, be like, okay, if anything goes wrong, we send out Lois. That's why his Flash was like, Lois is the key.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it dumbs down the whole idea of Lois is the key, but also like it makes sense that Batman would have her as a backup.
Yeah. And I think maybe one of the other scenes that I thought was kind of that they cut out, well, that was in the Joss, the original, was I guess Aquaman just sitting on the lasso of truth and just sort of like spilling out what he's thinking and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I remember liking that scene just because it's sort of like because I think that whole scene in general was just them trying to like,
well, we could die.
Yeah, this could be it. And it is sort of a scene that I think would have been neat, but I get why it's not there.
I don't blame Joss. I mean, yeah, we can all say he can be a shitty. He might be a shitty person, or is, or isn't, whatever. But like, I don't blame him for the stuff that happened.
No, because I think the main issues when it came to what happened with Justice League is more so on Warner Brothers themselves and not necessarily Joss Whedon. I mean, clearly, like when we talk about the opening of this, like the openings are different, obviously. Superman in this movie, it starts on Superman's death and like his fucking echoes just activate the mother boxes or whatever. But
still don't get why they would activate him because they're afraid of him. All right, then okay.
Yeah, but in the original, it's more like it's sort of a somber moment, where everybody's mourning the death of Superman, and in that we see just a homeless man with a sign "I tried," and a lot of people, I think, especially at the time, and I think even now, sort of like see that as sort of like Joss trying to tell the audience, "Listen, I tried my best with this. I tried to do as much as I could with the stuff I had, and this, I'm sorry."
I suck at this.
Well, not necessarily that, but like it's more like it feels like when we talk about the original Justice League being like a conflict of two different visions, it's more or less true, and I think just part of it just has to do with just the studio itself. Like realistically, if the studio really wanted to, they could have just either stopped production, waited for Zack to come back, or
had Whedon follow the whole plan.
Yeah, had just Whedon come in but follow what Zack wanted. But I think because like understanding the circumstances of Warner Brothers at the time, like obviously they were like just started the film when Batman v Superman came out, and Warner Brothers saw that the mixed reception of Batman v Superman and how everybody was saying was bad, and they were in a bit of a panic. They were like, listen, Zack, we can't have you be doing Batman v Superman here for Justice League. All right, we need to fix some of this stuff. And they try their best. And of course, when Zack's daughter took her life, he sort of stepped back, and Warner Brothers sort of they were just like, they sort of I guess saw this as a bit of an opportunity of like, okay, maybe from here we can make Justice League and turn it. Yeah, like maybe we can make this work better. We'll get Joss Whedon. He made the Avengers movies after all, so clearly he knows how to do something like this. And they just try to change the film into something that they thought would be marketable and good. And it turned out to be none of those things.
No.
So yeah, I feel like when people sort of try to trash Joss Whedon for at least ruining Justice League, I feel like it's more emblematic of
the studio
being the real sort of,
because I think it's the studio that asked for it to be a certain length, right?
Yeah, it was the studio that pretty much told Joss,
don't make it 4 hours.
Well, no, not even make it 4 hours. Like, keep it under 2 hours, which is like, and it's sort of like why though? Because most of these sort of big superhero films are at least are at least at the 2 hour mark or more, right? Like heck, like probably 2 hours and 30 minutes at the on average. Like, so yeah, the fact that they wanted to keep it under 2 hours is just so I guess limiting, especially for a movie that's supposed to be a team up movie and stuff. But yeah, I think it's definitely Warner Brothers sort of I guess fault on the reasons as to why the Justice League movie, the original, just came out the way it did. And seeing Zack's vision of it and his sort of, I guess, magnum opus, if you will, it's interesting. And
I mean, I think that the issue that a lot of people are saying you should let the artist do what he wants to do. It's their vision. This and that. The studio should never be involved. We have seen that argument fall and be supported so many times, especially in the film, because a lot of people tend to forget that a lot of the stuff that people hate in the prequels, the Star Wars prequel movies, were all George Lucas. No one said no to that man.
Yeah, the studio didn't tell George Lucas to put Jar Jar Binks in there. Friggin' George Lucas was literally saying Jar Jar is the key to all of this.
Yeah.
So there's it's understandable why people have that opinion of just let the artist do what the artist does in this film. Just let the director just have whatever he wants. But filmmaking is a bit of a compromise. There's just going to be moments that you're not going to get what you want. Whether it's you thought you were going to get some shots of a sunny day, but it turns out the weather's rainy and you're just not going to be able to get that shot anymore. So you got to rewrite some things and do things here. And I think the biggest compromise of all is, of course, the director with the studio. The studio is only going to give so much money before they have to be no, we can't do that. Because especially when it comes to these blockbuster movies, because essentially there's so much on the line with these movies when it comes to marketing them and the budgets that they're gonna, a lot of these studios are gonna be listen, we can't be doing X, Y, and Z. All right, save the artistic vision on a smaller budget film. All right, we need to make sure this movie fucking sells. And
because it's all about returns.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, Warner Brothers wanted Man of Steel to make $1 billion, and when it didn't, they were like, put Batman in. That'll fucking make us some money. And I mean,
they weren't wrong.
They weren't wrong, but it also turned out to be a very not very good film. But it's kind of like that. I get the I get the want of something like that, and I will say I respect Zack for being able to get essentially a second chance at making this film, because most, I guess, directors don't usually get that chance either because they're fine with the end product, or like, there's no way they'll ever get that chance again.
Mm-hmm. It's like I think another good example is what's his name who made Fantastic?
Josh Trank.
Yeah, Josh Trank. That man did not want to compromise at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, the studio, in a sense, was, definitely, like, cutting back on some of his stuff, and he was not very happy about it. And it was sort of it became sort of a conflict of interests, and that made Fantastic the way it was. And I know some people are like, maybe bring back the Trank cut, but obviously I think Josh Trank is a bit more, no, I don't want to work on big budget films anymore. Not after that experience. I don't care. I'm going to go back to indie films, which, power to him. Let him do what makes him happy, but...
Plus, I hear the experience for everybody was really bad, and then that's it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure no one wants to go back and try to make that movie work again.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like, on the whole, I respect Zack in that, like, it was neat to see his artistic vision in a way.
Yeah.
But there is for me, I feel like there's a sense of, like, we could have cut something, so this doesn't need to be like a 4-hour fucking
we
epic.
probably didn't need the whole Martian Manhunter stuff. We didn't need the nightmare sequences stuff.
Like, if anything, I feel like the Martian Manhunter thing would have worked better if it cut out Martha, him being Martha talking to Lois, right? If that scene had just ended with Martha Kent giving the advice and cut to the next scene without showing that she was Martian Manhunter, not only does that make that scene better, it also just, like, when Martian Manhunter shows up at the end, it's sort of like, oh my god, it's Martian Manhunter. We still have both of those reactions. It's just that they're now placed in two separate parts, so that way you can have that's a nice moment between Martha Kent and Lois, and at the end, wow, Martian Manhunter's here. Cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it doesn't make him seem like an asshole.
Yeah, like this time it could be like more like, I just came to Earth. I've heard about what you guys have done, and I want to join.
I think you're gonna need a lot of help, and I'm here to help.
Yeah,
like that's all it needed, and like going back to the whole artists and compromise and everything. I think a lot of people need to realize that sometimes studios have a point. Because, like, a lot of people don't know about, like, guys like Gary Kurtz, who basically made sure that the original trilogy became a thing. He was the one who helped, and you can read about, fights between him and George over what should be put in the film and what shouldn't. And, a lot of those are interesting to read. And, like, I remember one time Carrie Fisher was talking about, like, whenever those two fought, it was like, you didn't want to see them fight because it was like mom and dad fighting. Yeah. So it's like that kind of stuff. Now, being said, I think, part of this is on the fault with the studio. And also, and also you kind of have to give the studio credit and make it, not give the credit, but understand where they were. They couldn't risk another financial failure. You don't want that. And you can make, Zack Snyder could have made his movie, but they would have been like, okay, just cut, can you cut this part off, this and that. We don't really need that kind of scene. It's like, we can put this into the deleted scenes, alright? We can put this on the Blu-ray, alright? We'll make a director's cut, alright? It's fine. But, yeah, I think even then when we talk about stuff like that, and about compromise, it's like, fucking Star Wars fans get so goddamn annoyed whenever George adds shit into the original trilogy. Because it's like, it's perfect as it is, but I want to put this rock in front of it. R2-D2 when he's on Tatooine, because it's part of my artistic vision. So, like, there's clearly, like, examples of, like, even the audience being like, all right, that's a bit too far. We don't need to go back to these films and then retro and change the scenes, George. But it's fine. I'll take this vision, bro. But yeah, but I think it's a complex issue, and I feel like audiences, especially I guess these DC fans that really wanted the Snyder cut and want more stuff like it, that like filmmaking is a compromise. Art is honestly compromise, because there's sometimes when like even like artists like painters and stuff will just
have to realize that okay, this didn't come out exactly like I wanted, but it's just gonna be too much time to try to make it
there
better.
was an interesting story about Michelangelo and how he was upset that he signed one of his statues because he ended up, it's not that he ended up not liking it, but he ended up seeing the flaws and not really enjoying it as much, and he's kind of upset that he put his name on it, which is why he doesn't sign a lot of stuff. Michelangelo, the one of the greatest artists in history, was that's why he was upset with something he did.
I mean that's all artists in a way. They are their biggest critics in themselves, and they're like, I could have done that better, right? So and if we were to let various filmmakers just go back to their films and be like, let's just do that stuff.
There's a lot of art that I've done that I'm like, man, I wish I could went back and done that better.
Yeah, but I guess the beauty, in filmmaking sometimes is just sort of what they do when things don't go their way.
Yeah. And just because a lot of people have been talking about it, a lot of people are saying they should restore the Snyderverse. What do you think about that, Joey?
Oh, I don't think it's gonna happen. No. Mainly on two. There's two, things that made me think it's not gonna happen. The biggest one is that Zack is more or less just done with DC stuff. He's like, this is my last DC film thing I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna be done after that. I'm not gonna be doing anything else. And the other thing is more sort of I think we mentioned this a bit earlier, but the reasoning as to why we even got the Snyder Cut was Warner Brothers wanting to push the HBO Max streaming service. And I think I remember hearing the initial rumor being that they wanted something to compete with The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, because The Mandalorian is definitely the biggest selling point for Disney Plus, and it's a good fucking show, and everybody loves it. So they're like, "Fuck, we need something like that."
Oh shit, they're running the Marvel shows.
Yeah, and even now, now we have Marvel shows too, and it's like, oh shit, we need something to compete with that. What's something that we can get people to invest in on our streaming service that we have, that we can make in a quick amount of time? What about that Snyder Cut thing? Let's just give Zack Snyder a bunch of money to finish up that movie, his version of that movie, and we can sell it. We can sell it.
Yeah, I think that's basically what it is. And a lot of stuff you can tell, it just, especially with the way things are going, it just doesn't work. And a lot of people say you consider that being non-canon, like the Joker film, and I'm like, yeah, but I kind of like Shazam.
Yeah, even then, there's a ton of stuff that DC essentially has now put out that's not necessarily associated with Zack Snyder's films to a point. Like we said earlier, Aquaman has wildly different things from Justice League, and especially with Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? So yeah, it's gonna be really, I guess, jarring, I guess, to just try to go back to that. And I think Warner Brothers is more or less just
we're gonna focus on our own stuff.
Yeah, I think they're listen, all right, what Aquaman made us $1 billion. I think we know what we're sticking with. Yeah, right.
And there's a lot of stuff that he has plans for the future that I'm like, I don't know about that. Maybe he can pull it off, maybe he can't. There's hints, and I think it's confirmed in the film. I need to rewatch it, that Lois is pregnant, and then by the end of his trilogy or whatever of Justice League films, they would have named their Superman and Lois would have named their son after Bruce, who sacrificed himself, and he would have grown up to be Batman. And I'm just like, but why though?
Yeah, I guess that's interesting, but I don't know. That's given the fact that that we might not be getting that stuff. I mean,
I'm not complaining.
I mean, yeah. Also, given the fact that we haven't even gotten a confirmation of a second Justice League movie or whatever, to me, just signals that DC is still sort of we're just gonna go on this train. Yeah, this is the way we're going. We just put this out just to appease the fans and get them to subscribe to our HBO Max.
I'll say this. I think what would be cool for them to do. This is going for DC more than Warner Brothers. well, you know, they're owned by DC, is that give Zack the ability to make his own comic. Because a lot of the stuff that I have issue with would totally work if it was its own universe. Like, kind of like how we have the main DC universe and we have the Injustice universe, where Superman is an asshole and all that kind of stuff. If they gave Zack like all the stuff that Zack did with these movies and just put it in comic book form, because like they're basically half the time shot like they're comic books. It could totally work and it would sell really well. I could totally believe this this universe is Superman and the stuff that he does. He might not be my casual Superman, but I'm fine because I could just read the regular Superman comic.
Yeah, I that would be neat for them to do, but I mean, I guess that's more of like if Zack would want to do that.
True. But you know, that's I think that's about it that we can say. What's your rating?
I've thought about this for a while,
and which is why we took a while to make this.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's like I've thought about it, and I feel like this probably gets like a 6.5 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah. Granted, I'm pretty sure we rated the original Justice League like at a 5 or 4 because you know it's bad. And you know I'm not saying that like this movie is bad because it's not. It's substantially better than the original Justice League, and I think. But at the same time, there's just a lot of like moments that like you can like just cut out. It's just way too long. Like honestly, like if they just aimed for like a 3-hour, maybe 3.5,
no one would be complaining.
I don't think anybody would complain about that because that's pretty good length for a movie like that. But yeah, it's just various moments and decisions that sort of like when I said that this movie is Zack Snyder on a canvas. It has all his good and all his bad. I mean it because there are like the good things that Zack does when he films is there, but a lot of the bad habits and flaws that he in his filmmaking are also present, and those flaws really sort of bring down the movie for me. But I still say it's a good movie.
No, yeah, you're right. Because I have struggled to whether or not to put that 0.5 in there. Because, like it's, I enjoy the movie. Yeah, it was good. But I like Zack's style. But there's also things in Zack that when it comes to his filmmaking that I just don't agree with. Like the nightmare sequences. Why do we need to wait so much time? Why do we spend so much time with like people doing something that's just so mundane? And like it's not necessary. And like I'll say this, for a movie that's rated R, I don't think it needed to be rated R.
Realistically, no. I mean, they do add some like gory elements, like decapitations and like people getting chopped in half by
Steppenwolf's axe.
Yeah, but for the most part, like legitimately, a lot of them are just like blood splatters from like the back of the head or whatever. You know, like it's people get thrown and there's like a blood splatter behind them.
And I said this before while we were watching the movie, like when he's fighting with the Amazons, and he's carrying a big ass axe. You expect him to at least cleave a horse in half, but he doesn't.
Yeah, like it's weird too because there's a lot of points where it feels like there's like this is rated R, right? Like there's like it should be. Like, this
there's only like 3 F-bombs.
I mean, yeah, and like even when it comes to like those gorier elements, like it doesn't happen like often.
Yeah,
and you couldn't even say that like when the Justice League are fighting the parademons and killing them that it's gory because or that wouldn't be in a that could only happen in an R-rated movie, but it's like no, I mean it could happen in a PG-13 movie, especially because one,
just color the blood differently. Yeah,
their blood is like orange, so like I'm pretty sure that can fly under a PG-13 label. But yeah, it's more like I feel like the R rating is just there to like I don't know,
make it seem more important.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, no, then that's what I mean. Like, I don't. It's such a Zack Snyder thing to do because remember, Batman vs Superman had an ultimate cut, and a lot of people say that one was better. But I was like, does it really need to be R rated? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, and most of those are, and again, in that cut, like, there's only just more blood splatters, and that's about it.
Yeah,
and maybe Ben Affleck's ass.
Yeah,
which I'm pretty sure is the reason for the R rating.
Yeah,
that's just that can't be seen by children.
No, that's a nice ass though.
Yeah, but you don't want children seeing that.
Fair
right?
enough. Fair enough. But like I said, I enjoyed this movie, but those aspects show up and they make it apparent, and it reminds me of like why I don't like Zack's DC films, or why I didn't like Batman vs Superman. The thing that made me not, and the thing that took me away from really enjoying Man of Steel, it's still there, and it bothers me. So I can't really give it as much praise as I wanted because it still has those things that I really feel like Zack has. I do commend him because like this is a good movie. He did it for his daughter, and I'm happy that it came out well. And that's really I feel like Zack. I think he did it because it's he ends with saying for autumn, and I think he did it well. But there's still aspects of it that I don't really enjoy, and I'm being frank with that. I just don't really enjoy it because like because he has those elements that you still see that really kind of ruin most of those films for him. But I still enjoyed it at the end of the day. I'm not crazy about it like I am with like I was with Shazam, the first Wonder Woman film, good chunk of the Marvel films. It's still not there yet, but I think a lot of people say like if we don't do Justice League 2, it'd be a lot better. I don't know because I'd rather not watch a 5-hour cut of that movie.
Yeah,
because I would expect it to be that long. But like I said, I really struggled with the rating because like I don't want to give it a 0.5, but I have no other choice but to give it a 0.5. I'm with you on the 6.5. We're both basically saying it's a 7. But the stuff that's pulling it back is like, you kind of don't want to give it the full 7, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, that's your explanation.
I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna hate us for giving it that.
I mean, given our rationale for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the internet is the internet, and it will. If you aren't saying that it's trash, or if you aren't giving it a 1, or you're not giving it a 10, then your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah, but no, but honestly, I've seen a lot more. I think on Rotten Tomatoes it's a 7, right?
It's in like 75%.
Yeah, and that's not that far off from where we're at.
No, we're in sort of the range more or less.
Mm-hmm. And the users are like 90, but I feel like half of those are like people that
just mindless fanboys.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah. But I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's still a good movie, and I feel like people if that's what you want it to be, that you're getting your work. For us, it's good, but there's still a lot of stuff that holds it back. That's all I'm saying. But thank you guys for checking this out. This is the end of the episode. Obligatory stuff that I have to say, which is like follow us on all social media at the Geek Centurions. We have an Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Again, just type in the Geek Centurions. You'll find us. If you go to our Instagram, we have a link tree. The links to all of our podcasting sites that we are officially in, like Castbox, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, all that good stuff. And there's also a link to the YouTube, so you can watch, our ugly bugs. For all you audio listeners out there, you can put a face to the voice there. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all the kind of stuff that you expect to hear from YouTube is there. Support us there. We would happily see you guys support us there as well. Also, we do have a Patreon where you can support us that way. You do get some perks here and there, but it's a lot. It's reasonable for us, reasonable for everyone to enjoy. And we will still make a lot of the content that we enjoy. And there's a lot of stuff we want to do, and hopefully you guys can help us out with that too. But yeah, that's our review for the Snyder Cut. It's finally done. It's finally over. I can finally wake up from this waking nightmare. Oh wait, it's not a nightmare anymore.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's like, for
It was a pleasant dream.
all right. It's just for I guess all those DC fans petitioning for that stuff. I mean, they got what they wanted. They got what they wanted, and I'm happy for y'all.
Yeah. And for us, it was pleasant. Like I said, pleasant dream. Anyways, guys, it's been your boy.
Me, Joe.
It's been your boy Eli. We are the Geek Centurions, and hope you guys enjoyed our thoughts on the Snyder Cut. If you didn't, I'm sorry. But if you did, thank you. Yeah. So everyone have a good one. Hope you guys are safe. Peace.